This show is brought to you by Directory.com, the safest way to hire a contractor.
Welcome back to Morning Brew with the Homeowners. I'm your host, Dmitry Lipinski, here in Minneapolis. I have two co-hosts today in the studio. One is from Atlanta, another one is from San Diego. I'll let them introduce themselves. Clay Cox, go ahead, brother.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Clay Cox, based out of Atlanta. My company is Radner Roofing, private equity-backed roofing platform. Happy to be here.
And we have Riley, fourth generation roofer from San Diego. Fourth generation,
Come
brother.
on, yeah.
What's the name of your
Happy
company?
to be here, yeah.
So you were born in it.
Yes, I was. Yeah, four generations of roofing. Tried to stay out of it, but it got me back.
Wow, it sucked in. So today we have four stories. They're all nasty stories in a way, but if you've been in business for several generations, you probably heard worse. So we're gonna react to them, share them. The first one, I'll go first, is a contractor versus homeowner. Who is the real villain in this story? So it's a very classic blame game. Homeowner says the contractors is at fault. Contractor says the homeowner's to blame. Delays, extra bills, and change orders landed them in court. So who was really in the wrong here? I'll let you guys decide, and we'll discuss it with our guest today. So here's a few details for you. In October 2011, Shari Russo Gabrielle hires Curtis Groller. Clay, how would you say his last name?
I think it's Grollo.
For a major renovation. Project included kitchen cabinets installation, bathroom remodels, flooring and painting, a new porch, and other upgrades. Contract signed for $188,000. Right off the bat, I'll say this. It does not matter who does the job, how experienced the contractor or the homeowner. Project worth north of $150,000 with a kitchen cabinets, bathroom, and flooring. It will always be a nightmare. There's always going to be something that you did not expect or budget for. So payments are tied to bank inspections. At that time, Grola was not registered as a home improvement contractor, but the homeowner did not know it. I'm surprised. You pay someone $188,000 and they're not even licensed. Fall 2011, spring 2012, renovations start but are constantly pushed back. Rodent infestations, late material orders, and change orders from the homeowners all caused delays. 6 months in, the homeowner decided to change the 3-season porch to a year-round porch, causing a 4-week delay while they're waiting for approval from the building inspector. I'm telling you right now, after you pay someone $188, changing 3-season to 4-season sounds as a bad planning to me. Winter spring 2012, payment errors pile up. Grolo gets paid multiple times, including for work he never did, like tile and countertop that was instead installed by other contractors. Grolo doesn't return the overpayments, but he also does extra work for the homeowner because of her constant change orders. April 2012. Pressure is on. The homeowner and her husband ended their apartment lease based on Grolo's promise that the project would be done by April 30th. The house is nowhere near finished by the 30th. June 2012, breaking point. Grolo walks off the job just 4 days before the promised finish date and stops answering calls. The homeowner's family is unable to move in. Summer, fall 2012, project wraps. And homeowner changes the locks and hires new contractors to finish and correct problems like AC condenser grill installed dangerously close to gas meter. The home is finally approved for occupancy in September, month late. 12 to 15, legal battle starts. Contractor sues for unpaid work and files a lien. Homeowner counterclaims for breach of contract, overpayment, and violation of contractor's licensing laws. Court orders arbitration, but it's denied because Grolo isn't licensed, a major loss of rights for the homeowner. Outcome. Court finds contractor violated state law. Grolo's lack of registration and abandonment of the project were illegal under Massachusetts law. net money judgment in favor of contractor. After balancing out all the over and underpayment claims, the court finds that the homeowner actually owes Growler $1,988. Did not see that coming. Both sides win attorney's fees, a win for the homeowner. Growler gets $29,000 for his legal expenses. Homeowner wins $47,000 for legal expenses. And homeowner for consumer protection claims more than double what contractor got. In the end, the contractor owes the homeowner the difference in fees. What a story. Clay, you are attorney. What do you think here?
Well, my first reaction is, as usual, when you get in a fight like this, the only people who win are the lawyers. They're the only ones who got a good outcome and got paid at the end. So that's a good reminder for our audience, both the homeowners who are listening in as well as the contractors. When you can't come to like a reasonable resolution, the lawyers will be the ones who win. So that's my first reaction. I keyed in on what you said as well, Dimitri, the idea that it's such a large dollar contract, and somehow the homeowner was unaware that the contractor was unlicensed. Like, homeowners, beware. Please do the due diligence when you're considering using a contractor, any job size, but especially one of that size. What are they showing you that proves their legitimacy? That's why, at our company, we want to communicate our core values. We want people to know who we are, what we do, because we'd much prefer to be on the same page so that you don't wind up with these types of disputes. That was the biggest thing that stood out to me. I mean, like, unlicensed contractor ends up leading to all of these problems. And you would think that the contractor would be to blame for that. But look what happened at the end. In arbitration, the homeowner was the one who suffered for not doing the research and due diligence to uncover that this contractor was unlicensed. As a result of that, they get a bad result in arbitration, which seems kind of unfair. But it's a good reminder to our audience, like homeowners, you've got to look at these contractors and really know who you're working with.
Absolutely. Riley, where are you at?
Yeah, I'm on the same page of, first of all, if you can avoid getting any attorneys involved in the first place, that's always going to be the best thing you can do. But man, to hire a company or a person that is unlicensed is one of the biggest red flags up front that you can avoid just by looking at, hey, a simple search, are they a licensed contractor? And a lot of the problems that come from a lot of these stories that we hear, these nightmare construction stories, come just from that basic fact that they hired an unlicensed contractor, or even a contractor that's been in business for less than a year, just got licensed. So I think that's one of the most important things up front to look at is, man, are they licensed and actually doing their due diligence for this?
Absolutely. My biggest take personally, such a large amount, but also we would not, when we put money in a bank, every bank have FDIC that stamp that, FDIC approved, that $250,000 deposit protection, right? If you, and banks don't close, they don't go out of business as often as the contractors, right? If you look at the failure statistics of a contractors, it's crazy to me that people would not put money in a bank. Like, you would never give money to the bank that is not guaranteed that it's safe there. But people give money to the contractors, hundreds of thousands of dollars in this case. But I absolutely love the fact that at the end, the court did the counting and still found the contractor in favor. Say, hey, you overpay him. So something is telling me that he wasn't a very bad guy. Yes, he was unlicensed, but he did good work. And he did charge for the work he did. At the end, accounting was in his favor. It was surprising to me. So for me, like, he's not a scammer, maybe not very professional, like a lot of contractors are. And the way I read this case is he's probably not very professional, not licensed. Communication problem was the problem. He did not know how to deal with it, right? Like, bad contracts, bad work orders, bad planning. Now you have delays. Now you have a pissed homeowner, but that doesn't mean that he's necessarily a bad guy. Just typical uneducated contractor. So I think they both have learned a lot of lessons, and they paid for those mistakes in court. I mean, crazy, crazy story. So for me, he did get $29,000 in legal expenses. Homeowner wins $47,000. In the end, the contractor owes the homeowner the difference in fees, which is, I think it's a win for him, actually. I think he got away with a slap on his hands. Anyway, what a crazy story to start the show today. When we come back after the break, we have a story that started as a storm repair and ended with a fight over a jacuzzi. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back.